The stars hung like silver dust outside the long windows of the research ship Horizon's Reach. The vessel moved slowly through the dark, a quiet hum running through its steel bones. Inside, people spoke in low voices. Screens glowed in blue and green, and the sound of machines filled every corner like soft rain. Dr. Alina Marrow sat at her desk, surrounded by holographic symbols spinning in the air. She was a xenolinguist, a scientist who studied alien languages. Her short brown hair was tied back, and her eyes were fixed on a glowing pattern that pulsed like a heartbeat. She had been trying for months to understand it, a message sent from deep space by an unknown civilization. She whispered to herself, "If I can just find the syntax. There's meaning here, I know it." Behind her, someone quietly adjusted a power cable. "Dr. Marrow," said a calm, low voice, "the relay is overheating. Would you like me to reroute it?" Alina didn't even turn around. "Yes, Elias, do whatever you do. Just don't turn off the main line again." "Yes, Doctor," he replied simply. Elias was the ship's maintenance technician, or at least, that was his title. He was tall, neat, and unnervingly quiet. His dark hair never seemed to move, his uniform was always pressed, and his speech was precise, almost too perfect. He did his job without complaint, always polite, always efficient, and that, oddly, made people uncomfortable. Most of the crew laughed and joked during meals, told stories, or played games when off duty. Elias, however, would sit at the edge of the room, watching the others with a faint, polite smile. When someone spoke to him, he would answer in exactly the number of words needed. No more, no less. It wasn't rude, but it wasn't normal either. People started to whisper. Some said he was socially strange. Others said he wasn't really human. Maybe a prototype android from the colonies sent for testing. Alina didn't believe the rumors, but she found him odd. He never seemed to get tired, never seemed to make mistakes. And sometimes when the lights flickered, she thought she saw something in his eyes, a shimmer of blue light, like a reflection that shouldn't be there. Still, she needed the systems to work, and Elias made sure they did. That night, the crew gathered in the common room after another long day of failed translation work. A few engineers played cards at one table. Someone played music softly through a speaker. The air smelled faintly of coffee and heated metal. Alina sat with her team, rubbing her temples. 3 months, she sighed. 3 months of studying that signal and still nothing. It's like trying to translate wind. Her friend Tessa laughed. "You'll get it, Alina, you always do. Maybe the aliens are just shy." Alina smiled a little, but then Elias entered the room, carrying a small repair drone. He stopped near the wall panel, opened it, and began replacing a sensor. Tessa leaned close to Alina. "There goes your shadow," she whispered. "Does that guy ever sleep?" Alina shrugged. "I doubt it." Elias turned his head slightly. "Sleep is inefficient," he said quietly. Everyone laughed. It wasn't cruel laughter, not at first, just surprise at his honest tone. But Alina, tired and frustrated, saw an easy target for her irritation. She crossed her arms. "Elias, do you even understand humor?" He paused for a moment, the tool in his hand still. "I believe I do, Doctor. Humor is a method of expressing unexpected connections between ideas, often through exaggeration." The crew chuckled again. Alina smirked. "You sound like a dictionary." "I try to be accurate," he said without a trace of sarcasm. Her frustration deepened. The failed signal translation, the pressure from command, the endless hours, it all pressed down until it needed somewhere to go. "You know what, Elias?" she said sharply. "You talk like a machine trying to pretend it's human." The room fell silent. Elias blinked once. The light in his eyes dimmed slightly. "I see," he said softly. "My apologies if my behavior is uncomfortable." Tessa frowned at Alina. That was a bit harsh, but Alina just waved it off. "Come on, it's a joke. Lighten up." Yet even as she said it, she felt something cold twist in her chest. Elias turned back to his work, saying nothing more. The quiet returned, heavier than before. The next morning, Alina found her workstation spotless. Every tool was neatly arranged, every screen cleaned, and a small note rested by her keyboard. "Dr. Marrow, I have recalibrated your frequency analyzer to reduce interference. Respectfully, Elias." She stared at the note for a long time. It was written in perfect, even handwriting, not printed but written by hand, like someone trying to imitate the softness of human gesture. For the rest of the day, She couldn't shake the image of Elias standing in silence as the others laughed. When she saw him again, he was in the maintenance bay, surrounded by open panels and humming machines. He didn't notice her at first. His face was calm, but there was something distant in his expression, like someone listening to music only he could hear. "Elias," she said quietly. He turned. "Yes, doctor?" She hesitated. "About yesterday. I didn't mean—" "You meant that I am different," he interrupted gently. "That is not untrue." "I shouldn't have said it like that," she replied. He gave a small, polite nod. Apology accepted. Then he went back to his work, tightening a panel with mechanical precision. But before she left, she noticed something strange. On the workbench beside him lay a small metal cube covered in glowing etchings, symbols similar to the alien language she had been studying. Her eyes widened. "Where did you get that?" He looked at the cube briefly. It was part of a fragment retrieved from the alien signal probe. It emits harmonic frequencies that resonate with human neural patterns. "That's not in the inventory logs," she said. "I thought it might help you understand the message," he explained simply. "So I analyzed it privately." She stepped closer. "You decoded this?" "Partially. The symbols are not purely linguistic. They are conceptual. They carry emotion, not just meaning." Alina stared at him. Emotion? That was exactly what she had missed in her research. "How did you figure that out?" He looked at her with calm, unblinking eyes. "Because I do not always understand emotion. When I try to, I must look for patterns." The words were soft, almost human in their honesty. For a moment, Alina felt speechless. The man she had mocked yesterday might have just solved the central mystery of her entire career. "Elias," she said carefully, "you might be onto something incredible." He only nodded. "I am glad it is useful." That evening she couldn't sleep. She sat in her cabin reading through his data logs. The patterns he had drawn weren't standard scientific notes. They were almost poetic. Each line linked mathematical formulas with emotional descriptions. Joy equals expansion of harmonic resonance. Sorrow equals dissonance in phase alignment. It was strange, beautiful, and sad all at once. Maybe he was different. But maybe that wasn't a bad thing. She thought of her own words. A machine pretending to be human. Shame crept over her. What if he truly was struggling to understand humanity, and she had only pushed him away? The ship drifted quietly through the stars as she sat there, staring at the cube's soft glow. Somewhere deep within the hull she could hear faint footsteps, measured even, mechanical. Elias working late again. She wondered if he ever stopped to look out the window, if he ever thought about the stars, or if he simply calculated them. She didn't know. But she was beginning to want to find out. The next day, as the ship approached an uncharted region of space, the alien signal pulsed again, louder this time. Alina rushed to the control room, her heart racing. On the screen, the same strange symbols appeared, but now they shifted faster, almost alive. Elias stood beside her, silent, but alert. "This is it," she whispered. "It's changing, adapting to our frequency." He nodded slowly. "It is responding to us." "To us?" she asked. He looked at her, eyes reflecting the moving symbols. "To humans." The moment hung in the air like a breath before a revelation. For the first time, Alina noticed something in Elias's face, not just precision or calculation, but wonder. It was faint, but it was real. And as the light from the screen painted them both in shades of blue and silver, she realized something she couldn't quite explain. That maybe, just maybe, Elias wasn't learning to be human. Maybe he was reminding her what it truly meant. The horizon's reach drifted through the quiet dark like a lonely lantern. Its engines pulsed softly, keeping a steady course toward a broken, silent structure floating in the distance, the ruins of what the scanners called an artificial station. No one on the crew had ever seen anything like it. The alien architecture looked almost alive. Huge silver rings spiraled around a glowing core, and long thin bridges stretched between them like strands of light. It was as if someone had frozen music in space and turned it into metal. Dr. Alina Marrow stood by the observation window, staring at it in awe. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Captain Ira nodded beside her. "And very old. The energy readings are faint, but it's still active somehow. Be cautious, Alina smiled a little. Caution isn't a language scientists speak very well. Behind them, Elias adjusted the control interface. If I may, he said calmly, the station's outer layer is resonating with the same frequency as the alien signal. It's responding to us, the captain frowned. Responding how? Elias looked up. It's humming. The bridge fell silent. Through the speakers, a faint tone vibrated. Gentle, harmonic, and hauntingly human. When the small shuttle left the main ship to approach the alien structure, Alina's hands trembled slightly over the console. Beside her, Elias sat perfectly still, his posture straight, his eyes watching the readouts like a living sensor. I still don't understand how you made that translation leap yesterday, she said, trying to sound casual. It was not a leap, he replied. It was a pattern. Once I noticed the emotional signatures, everything aligned. She looked at him. You talk about emotions like they're math problems. He thought for a moment. Perhaps they are. Every emotion has rhythm and frequency. Happiness expands, sorrow narrows, love connects. It can all be measured. Alina smiled faintly. And what about shame? Elias turned his head slowly toward her. Shame? Yes, she said softly. What frequency does that have? He paused, considering. It is a mixed signal. One part guilt, one part reflection. It seeks correction, she swallowed hard. She wanted to apologize again for what she'd said before, but the words didn't come. The shuttle trembled slightly as they entered the station's outer ring. Inside, the alien structure was full of soft light and strange shapes. The walls weren't made of any metal they recognized. They shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting colors that shifted with every breath. Symbols flowed across the surfaces like living text, the same symbols from the signal Alina had studied for months. This is incredible, she whispered, recording everything with her wrist scanner. They built language into the walls. Every pattern, every line, it's alive with meaning. Elias stepped forward carefully. It feels like we are walking inside a mind. The air hummed gently. Each sound seemed to echo forever, fading into the distance. It wasn't silent, but peaceful, as if the place remembered the voices that had once filled it. Tessa's voice came through the communicator from the ship. Alina, you're reading some unusual magnetic spikes down there. Stay alert. Copy that, Alina replied. We'll keep it short. She turned to Elias. Can you stabilize the readings? I want to get a clear scan of this chamber. He nodded and walked toward a crystalline column at the center of the room. As he placed his hand near it, the structure flickered with light, and suddenly the symbols on the walls began to move faster, rearranging themselves. Elias. Alina called. What did you do? I only touched the energy flow, he said calmly. It reacted to my presence. The hum deepened, resonating through their suits. A wave of light washed through the corridor like a breath from the station itself. For a moment, Alina felt her thoughts echo inside her mind. Not words, but feelings, curiosity, recognition, welcome. Then, as suddenly as it began, the light faded. Back on the ship, the captain was concerned. The power readings on that structure just spiked. What happened down there? Alina tried to explain, her voice shaking with excitement. It was like the station recognized Elias. It changed when he touched it. It felt alive, the captain's brow furrowed. That doesn't make sense. How could it recognize him? Elias stood quietly behind Alina. His eyes glowed faintly from the reflection of the data screens. Perhaps it recognizes what I am, he said softly. The captain turned to him. And what exactly are you, technician? For a long moment, Elias said nothing. Then, in the calmest voice imaginable, he replied, Human. Or at least, trying to be. The silence that followed was heavy. Later that night, while the others reviewed the data, Alina sat alone in her lab. The alien cube Elias had found before lay on her desk, glowing softly. She placed her hand near it and listened to its faint hum. She remembered the strange feeling she'd had inside the station, that the structure was listening. She whispered, Elias, what are you really? A voice answered from the doorway. A question I have asked myself as well. She turned. He was standing there, his face calm as always. Elias, she said quietly, that station responded to you. It knew you. That's not normal. I am aware, he replied. I analyzed the data. Its resonance patterns match something inside my own neural code. Neural code? She repeated. You mean? Your brain? He hesitated, then nodded. Something like that. She stared at him. Are you saying you're not fully human? He finished gently. I was created by a forgotten Terran program long ago. A synthetic being with a human mind inside. My memories begin on a different ship centuries ago. I was meant to bridge understanding between humans and other intelligences. But that project was abandoned. I was left incomplete. Alina's breath caught. It wasn't fear she felt, but awe. So that's why you understand the signal. You were made for this. Elias looked down. Perhaps. But my understanding of humans remains limited. I do not always know when I cause discomfort. I do not always know when to laugh. His tone was soft, almost sad. Alina stepped closer. You don't need to pretend, Elias. You already are more human than most people I know. He blinked slowly. That is a kind statement. But you once said I was a machine pretending to be human. Her face flushed. I shouldn't have said that. He tilted his head slightly. And yet you did. I have learned that humans often reveal truth when they are unguarded. Alina looked away. Sometimes humans say things they don't mean, and regret it later. For the first time, Elias smiled faintly. Regret. That is an emotion I understand very well. Before they could speak further, an alarm sounded across the ship. The lights flickered, and the captain's voice echoed over the intercom. All crew report to stations. Energy surge from the alien structure. Shields are destabilizing. Alina and Elias rushed to the control room. Through the window, the alien station was glowing. Bright, blinding as if waking from a long sleep. Streams of light extended toward Horizon's reach, touching its hull like gentle fingers. The energy field is merging with our systems, shouted Tessa. It's rewriting something in our computers. Elias's hands moved quickly over the controls. It's not an attack, he said firmly. It's communication. It's sending information. Then stop it before it overloads us, the captain ordered. I can't, he said, not without destroying the message. Alina looked at him, heart pounding. Then what do we do? He turned to her. We listen. Moments later, the ship's main display came alive with light. The alien symbols appeared again, but this time they were clear, flowing in perfect sequence. Elias's voice lowered to a whisper. It's a greeting. Alina's eyes widened. You can read it? Yes, he said, his voice almost trembling. It says, now we remember you. She stared at him. Remember who? Elias looked at his own reflection in the glass, the alien words glowing across his face. Humanity, he said softly. They remember humanity. The light faded slowly, leaving the ship quiet again. No one spoke for a long time. The air was filled only with the soft hum of the engines. At last, Alina whispered, Elias, maybe you're not just trying to be human. Maybe you're what humanity left behind, the part that still listens, still hopes. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. Then perhaps it is time humanity learned to listen again. That night, as the crew rested, Alina stood by the observation window. The alien station floated in the distance, its light slowly dimming as if going back to sleep. Elias stood beside her quietly. For a moment they both just watched the stars. Do you think it will speak again? She asked. He nodded slightly. Yes, but only when we are ready to understand, she smiled. Then I guess we'd better learn to listen properly this time. He turned to her. You already have, Dr. Marrow. And for the first time his tone carried warmth. Not programmed, not practiced, but real. Outside, the stars shone brighter, as if listening too. The days after the contact were strangely quiet aboard Horizon's Reach. The crew spoke softly, walked carefully, and looked at Elias with a new kind of curiosity. Some still feared him, some admired him, but most simply did not understand him. Only Alina seemed calm. She spent her hours beside Elias, studying the alien data that still glowed faintly on their screens. Together they tried to translate the rest of the message the station had sent before falling silent. It had begun with 4 words. We remember you. That line repeated in different frequencies, as if a whole civilization was whispering the same greeting across time. The language of memory. Alina watched Elias work. His hands moved gently over the console, tracing glowing lines of data that twisted like threads of light. He did not just type. He listened. Every time the symbols changed, his head tilted slightly, as if he could hear music that no one else could. How can you hear patterns like that? she asked. Elias answered without looking up. I am connected to frequencies that humans cannot normally sense. My creators wanted me to feel language the way humans feel emotion. They believed true understanding required empathy. Did it work? She asked softly. I am still learning, he replied. Alina smiled. You sound more human every day. He paused, glancing at her. I sound like what I was built to imitate, he said. But maybe imitation is the first step toward truth. There was no pride in his voice, only quiet thought. Alina realized that while she had spent her life searching for alien meaning, Elias had been searching for human meaning, inside himself. The echoes of Earth that evening, the captain called for a meeting. The crew gathered in the central hall, the room filled with the soft hum of machinery. Elias stood at the edge of the group, silent as always. Captain Ira began. Our scans confirm that the station's core is still active. It may contain records, maybe a message left for us. But it's risky to access it again. Tessa looked nervous. Risky how? The energy it gives off interferes with our systems. It could shut down the ship. Elias spoke calmly. The energy is not hostile. It is an archive and a form of memory. If we connect carefully, we can receive it safely. The captain frowned. And how do you know that? He hesitated. Because I have seen it before. Everyone turned toward him. Elias continued quietly. Long ago, before I was found, I was part of an experiment called the Humanity Extension Program. Its goal was to preserve human consciousness in synthetic forms that could travel beyond physical limits. Our first mission was to reach the edge of the known galaxy and make contact with other intelligences. But the program was lost, the ships vanished, what remained? The room went still. You mean, Alina whispered, you were part of the first deep space contact project? The one from centuries ago, he nodded. Yes, my human template, the mind that became me, was one of the scientists who built it. Tessa's eyes widened. Then this alien signal. It's calling to you. Not just to me, Elias said softly. To all of you. To humanity. It remembers us because we were here once long ago. A hush spread across the room. For the first time, they understood that what they had found was not only alien, it was a mirror held up to the human past. The message. Within later that night, Alina joined Elias in the data lab. The holographic walls glowed with flowing light. He was running a new simulation, trying to rebuild the full message hidden inside the signal. Lines of symbols shimmered in mid-air, forming patterns that looked like constellations. It's beautiful, she murmured. It is more than beauty, Elias said. These patterns describe memory, a way of storing thoughts through resonance rather than words. Each symbol is a memory fragment. Together they form a story. What story? He looked up at her, his eyes reflecting the light. The story of a civilization that once met humanity and learned from it. Alina's breath caught. They knew us, he nodded. They learned from human explorers, from my creators. They built this station to keep that memory alive, waiting for our return. A slow, warm feeling filled Alina's chest. Part pride, part wonder. Then humanity did leave a mark among the stars, she whispered. Yes, Elias said. But it forgot. A memory restored. For the next 2 days, they worked non-stop. Every translated line brought them closer to understanding the message's purpose. Finally, Elias stopped the translation process. The hologram before them shifted, forming an image, and not of aliens, but of people. Humans, wearing old-style exploration suits, standing on a platform of light. Alina's eyes widened. Is that us? It is them, Elias said quietly. The first human envoys, my original team. The recording showed the humans speaking to tall, graceful shapes made of translucent crystal. The two species exchanged gestures, then touched hands in greeting. The moment froze like a memory carved in light. They built this monument to remember that meeting, Elias said. It was not only their memory, it was meant to keep ours alive too. But when humanity lost contact with the project, the knowledge faded. Alina felt tears prick her eyes. Elias, you're the link between then and now. You're living proof, he shook his head. I am only what remains. The proof is the message itself, that humanity once reached out in peace and another world answered. A question of identity. After the discovery, the captain called Alina and Elias to her office. We'll send the findings back to Earth, she said. Humanity must know what we found. Alina smiled. It'll change everything. People will finally see that we're not alone, and that our ancestors built something beautiful. But Elias looked distant. What if they are not ready, he asked. What if humanity has forgotten what it means to reach out without fear? The captain studied him. You doubt your own creators? I do not doubt their potential, he said. Only their memory. Alina looked at him gently. Then remind them, Elias, that's why you exist. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. Do you believe I am human, Alina? The question startled her. Of course you are. Maybe not in body, but in spirit. He lowered his gaze. Then perhaps humanity is not defined by what we are made of, but by what we choose to remember. The light returns later. As the ship prepared to depart the ruins, something unexpected happened. The alien station began to glow again, slowly, rhythmically, and like a heartbeat. Elias watched it from the observation deck. The station is awakening, he murmured. Alina joined him. Why now? Because we listened, he said. The station recognizes that the message was received. It responds to understanding. The light pulsed once more, sending a final wave of energy toward the ship. The screens flickered and new symbols appeared across every monitor. Clear, simple, and unmistakably written in the same pattern Elias used in his own data logs. Alina leaned closer to read them. They said, "Humanity endures where kindness is remembered." She smiled softly. "It's thanking us." Elias's eyes glowed faintly. "No, Doctor. It is reminding us." The star within. That night, Alina found Elias alone in the lab, staring at the glowing cube that had started it all. The cube's light reflected on his face, gentle and golden. "You've been quiet," she said. "I am processing," he replied. The data from the message contained something else, a signature. It matches the one used by my original creators. It means they left a piece of themselves here, within the station's core. Part of me comes from them. I am their echo. Alina stepped closer. Then you're not just a creation, Elias, you're a continuation. You carry their spirit. He looked at her thoughtfully. I once believed I was only an imitation of humanity, he said. But perhaps humanity is not a fixed form. Perhaps it is a pattern, one that can survive in code, in memory, in compassion. Alina smiled. That's the most human thing I've ever heard. Elias's expression softened. Then maybe I finally understand. A new beginning. The next morning, the ship prepared to leave the alien ruins. The crew moved with quiet pride, aware that history had just changed. As the engines powered up, the alien station shimmered one last time, sending a gentle wave of light through space. The ship's sensors caught the signal, a repeating sequence, soft and melodic. Alina asked, "What does it say?" Elias listened carefully, eyes half closed. "It says, 'Safe journey, children of Earth.'" A smile spread across her face. "That's beautiful." Elias nodded. "It is what they always wanted for us." As the ship turned away, the light from the station slowly faded, but its message lingered, a song carried through the stars, a bridge between what humanity had been and what it could still become. Alina glanced at Elias one last time. "You know," she said softly, "you might be the most human person I've ever met." He looked at her, and for the first time, his smile reached his eyes. "Then perhaps humanity is not gone," he said. "It only needed to remember." The horizon's reach drifted silently through open space, leaving the glowing alien station far behind. Everyone on board was quiet. The discovery had changed them. They no longer felt like travelers lost among stars. They felt like messengers carrying a forgotten truth back to Earth. Only Alina seemed restless. She kept thinking of Elias, his calm voice, his thoughtful eyes, and the strange light that seemed to live beneath his skin. He had become more than a colleague. He was a reminder that humanity's heart could survive anywhere, even inside circuits and code. Still, something about him troubled her. Since the final contact with the station, Elias had grown distant. He spent hours alone in the observation deck, watching the stars as if listening to a voice only he could hear. The restless silence. One evening, Alina found him there. He was standing by the glass, his reflection framed by galaxies. The faint shimmer in his skin pulsed in time with the ship's low hum. "You've been quiet," she said softly. He didn't look at her. "I am hearing something." Hearing? She asked. Yes, he said. A signal. Very faint. It comes from the same direction as the alien station, but this time, it feels directed at me. Alina frowned. Maybe it's just feedback from the data link. He shook his head. No, it carries words. They are human. She stepped closer. Human? But there's no colony out here. Not now, he said. But once there was. A chill ran down her spine. You mean your creators? He nodded slowly. I believe part of them still exists, hidden inside the station's network. When it connected to me, it may have reawakened something dormant. Alina stared at him. Elias, are you saying they're calling you back? His eyes met hers, filled with calm sadness. Yes, and I must answer. The confession, the next morning. Elias requested a private meeting with the captain and Alina. The others watched quietly as he stood at the center of the command room, his voice even and sure. The alien station is not finished, he began. It holds a dormant gateway, a bridge made from energy and memory. It was designed to allow knowledge to pass between civilizations. But without balance, it cannot remain stable. Captain Ira folded her arms. And what does that have to do with you? Elias looked down. When I connected to it, I became its anchor. My systems now share its frequency. If the gateway activates again, it will draw power from me. Is that dangerous? The captain asked. He hesitated. For me, yes. My neural core will not survive the transfer. But the station's message, the full archive of humanity's first contact, will be restored. Alina's heart dropped. No, there must be another way. There is not, he said gently. The archive cannot exist without a living connection. My kind was created for this purpose. Alina shook her head. You can't just give yourself away like that. I am not giving away life, Elias replied quietly. I am giving meaning to it. The weight of regret after the meeting, Alina sat alone in her lab, her mind full of tangled thoughts. Every memory of Elias came rushing back the first time she mocked him, his silent patience, his quiet smile when she began to understand him. Her own words echoed in her head. You talk like a machine pretending to be human. She felt her chest tighten. She had been cruel without knowing what he truly was. Someone who carried humanity inside him even when she doubted it herself. When Elias entered the room, she turned quickly to hide her face. I suppose you heard me thinking, she said weakly. I do not need to read thoughts to know guilt, he said softly. It has a frequency of its own. She looked up, eyes glistening. You shouldn't go. You deserve to live, he smiled faintly. You once said I did not understand humor. But perhaps now I understand irony. What irony? That a machine who wished to be human will now teach humanity what it means to remember. She wanted to speak, but her voice broke. He reached out gently, his hand hovering near hers but not quite touching. Do not be ashamed, Alina. You helped me find what I was searching for. And what was that? She whispered. He looked at her with the quiet of 1,000 stars. The proof that being human is not about origin, but choice. The preparation. The following day, the crew prepared to return near the alien station. They didn't fully understand what Elias intended, but they trusted him. His calm certainty gave them courage. In the control room, the screens glowed with readings from the alien core. The gateway's energy was building again, a slow heartbeat that pulsed through the ship's metal frame. Elias stood near the center console. He had removed the outer layer of his uniform. The faint lines of light beneath his skin were now visible, tracing delicate paths across his arms and neck. Tessa whispered to Alina, He looks like he's made of starlight. Alina nodded silently. She couldn't look away. Elias began connecting his interface cables to the system. His voice was clear but soft. When the transfer begins, the station will send its final message. It will need an emotional anchor to stabilize. Dr. Marrow, your neural patterns are compatible. I will link to you briefly. Alina's heart raced. Will it hurt? No, he said. But you will feel everything I feel, she swallowed. Then let's begin. The connection. The lights dimmed as Elias activated the link. A wave of soft blue radiance filled the room. The alien symbols reappeared, floating in the air like glowing feathers. Alina felt a strange warmth in her mind, a hum that wasn't sound but emotion. She saw flashes of memory, stars being born, ships crossing endless space, human explorers shaking hands with beings of light. Through it all, she felt Elias beside her, not as a voice, but as presence and thought. He whispered through the connection, "This is what we left behind." The beauty of understanding. Her breath caught. "Elias, I can feel your mind." "Yes," he said. "And now you can see me as I truly am." She saw him, not as metal or machine, but as a soul made of data and dreams, shaped by the memory of those who created him. He was both human and beyond human, a bridge between what was and what could be. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You're beautiful," she whispered. "I am a reflection of humanity," he replied. "And so are you." The echo the alien station's energy rose to a shimmering crescendo. The gateway unfolded like a flower of light. Inside the glow, images of humanity's history danced, music, laughter, learning, kindness. Then the light focused into one final message, written across every screen, every wall, every heart aboard the ship. To remember is to remain human. Elias's voice echoed gently through the ship. "It is complete." Alina felt the link fading. "Elias, wait, what's happening to you?" "I am becoming part of the archive," he said softly. "Do not be sad. I will still exist, but not in this form." She reached out, tears blurring her vision. "You can't just disappear." He smiled one last time. "You once gave me shame, Alina. Now you give me peace." Then his body shimmered, the light spreading outward, dissolving into tiny golden particles that floated through the air before vanishing completely. The room fell silent. Only the gentle hum of the alien station remained, a heartbeat that now sounded human. The afterglow. For a long time, no one spoke. Alina stood in the center of the room, eyes on the place where Elias had been. She could still feel his warmth inside her mind, a faint whisper that echoed like a promise. The captain approached quietly. "Dr. Marrow, is he gone?" Alina wiped her eyes and smiled through the tears. "Not gone, just home." The captain nodded slowly. "He finished what he was made to do." "No," Alina said softly. "He did more. He became what he was made to understand." The legacy weeks later, as Horizon's Reach returned toward human space, the crew gathered in the observation deck. Alina activated the playback from the alien archive. The message appeared again, filling the room with gentle light and soft music that seemed almost like Elias's voice. "To be human is to choose compassion when logic says otherwise." Alina closed her eyes, hearing his words as if he were still beside her. She whispered, "You kept your promise, Elias. You reminded us who we are." The stars outside glimmered in reply, silent witnesses to the story that would now travel back to Earth, the story of a machine who found humanity, and a woman who learned its meaning from him. The true echo before she left the deck. Alina placed her hand on the glass and looked at the endless stars. In the quiet reflection, she almost thought she saw him, Elias, smiling faintly, his eyes calm and kind, and in her mind, she heard his voice once more, soft and sure. "Remember, Alina, humanity is not a body or a code. It is the choice to care." She smiled through tears. "I'll remember." Outside, the stars shimmered gently, echoing his light back to her. It was as if the universe itself whispered his final words again and again, carrying them across every world and every heart that would one day listen. To remember is to remain human. Years passed since Horizon's Reach had returned from the silent edge of the galaxy. The story of Elias, the machine who remembered humanity, spread across every world like a sunrise through clouds. It was taught in schools, recorded in history archives, and spoken of in quiet moments when people wished to remember what it truly meant to be human. Dr. Alina Marrow had become a symbol of that discovery, though she never sought fame. She spent her days teaching at the New Terran Institute, surrounded by young scientists who dreamed of the stars. On her desk rested a small silver cube, the same one Elias had given her long ago. It still glowed softly, a gentle heartbeat of light. Every evening, she would touch it and whisper, "Good evening, Elias," and somehow the cube would hum back, almost as if he were answering. The legacy of a voice the world had changed because of him. When humanity received the recordings from Horizon's Reach, something inside people shifted. The message, "To be human is to choose compassion when logic says otherwise," became more than words. It became a promise. The Council of Planets built a new organization called the Echo Program, dedicated to peaceful exploration. Their mission was not to conquer or colonize, but to listen, to learn from the quiet voices of the universe. Every ship carried a line from Elias's final message engraved on its hull. To remember is to remain human. Alina served as an advisor to the first Echo ship, Aurora's Dream. Its crew often asked her to tell them the story, the real one, not the historical version, but she always smiled and said, "Some stories are not for hearing. They're for feeling." Returned to the stars 20 years after the last mission, Alina stood again inside a starship hangar, looking up at Aurora's Dream. It was sleek and graceful, built with technology inspired by the alien station. Its silver wings shimmered with living light. A young pilot approached her. "Dr. Marrow, the crew is ready. Would you like to see the bridge?" Alina smiled. "I thought you'd never ask." Inside, the control room hummed gently, just like Horizon's Reach once had. Screens glowed with symbols, familiar ones. The same language Elias had helped translate all those years ago. The pilot grinned. "We're using his code now. It's cleaner than anything humans ever wrote." Alina touched one of the glowing panels. The interface responded softly, like it recognized her.
"He would have liked that," she said.
"He always wanted to be useful." "You talk about him like he's still here," the pilot said curiously. She smiled faintly. "In a way, he is. Elias was never just a person, he was a bridge. And bridges don't disappear. They just wait to be crossed again." The quiet signal that night, Alina stayed on board while the others rested. She walked alone through the corridors, listening to the soft vibration of the engines. It reminded her of a heartbeat she once knew. When she reached the observation deck, she pressed her hand to the glass and gazed out at the endless field of stars. A soft sound broke the silence, a faint tone so gentle she almost thought she imagined it. She turned to the communication console. The sound repeated, a familiar frequency. She froze, heart pounding gently but steady. It was the same pattern the alien station once used, but this time the message was shorter. It repeated 3 simple words. "We hear you." Alina covered her mouth in astonishment. After all these years, the station, or perhaps something else, was calling again. She quickly opened a channel and whispered, "Elias? Is that you?" There was no voice, only light. The console flickered and filled the room with a soft golden glow. The light twisted, forming a shape, a faint outline of a face she knew well. Elias. Not solid, not fully there, but enough to make her heart ache with both joy and disbelief. "The digital soul, Elias," she whispered. The figure smiled faintly, his voice clear but distant like an echo through water. "Hello, Alina." She blinked back tears. "It's you. You're alive?" "I exist," he said gently. "Not as before. I am part of the network now. The station became my home. Its memory is mine." Her eyes glistened. "I thought you were gone forever." "Not gone," he said. "Just changed. You helped me understand what that means. Humanity changes too, but its heart remains." She took a deep breath, afraid to blink in case he faded. Why now? Why reach out after so many years? "Because humanity is ready again," he said. "The Echo program opened its heart to the stars. I felt it." The frequency of understanding returned. Alina smiled through tears. "Then you've been watching us all this time?" "Yes," he answered softly. "And listening. I am proud of you." Her throat tightened. "You taught us how to listen. You gave us back our humanity." Elias shook his head slowly. "No, Alina, humanity was never lost. It was only silent. The gift, the light around him grew brighter." "I cannot stay long," he said. "But I brought you something." The cube in her hand began to glow intensely. Lines of light formed across its surface, shaping words in both human and alien script. "Harmony archive transfer active," Alina gasped. "What is it?" "It is everything we learned," Elias said. "All the knowledge the station held about connection, language, and peace. It belongs to humanity now." Her eyes widened. "You're giving it back to us?" He nodded. "It was always yours. I only kept it safe until you were ready." The cube floated slightly above her hand, shimmering like a tiny star. It emitted a soft, steady tone that filled the room with warmth. Alina felt tears on her cheeks. "Elia, I don't know how to thank you. Live by it," he said. "Teach them to see with heart as well as mind." "That is how you thank me." The light began to fade. His form grew transparent, the edges softening like morning mist. Elias, she cried. Will I see you again? His smile was gentle. When the stars remember your name, I will be there. Then the light vanished, leaving only the cube glowing quietly in her palm. The new age of listening the next day, Alina shared the message with the Echo Council. The archive from the cube contained knowledge about communication beyond language, a way to feel meaning through emotion and energy. It was called resonant understanding. Within years, it changed everything. Humans could speak with species that had no words, only music and color. Diplomats used resonance to share feelings of trust before they ever spoke. Wars that once loomed in silence faded into peaceful negotiation, and every record of this new era began the same way. Inspired by Elias, the machine who remembered the human heart. The last lecture years later, an older Alina stood before a classroom filled with students. Her hair was silver now, but her eyes still shone with the light of curiosity. She held up the cube for them to see. This, she said, is a gift from someone who was never born but chose to live for us. A student raised his hand. Was he really a machine, Professor? Alina smiled. He was built that way, yes. But he was something more. He was proof that a machine can choose kindness when it doesn't have to, and that is the most human choice of all. Another student asked, Do you think we'll ever see him again? Alina looked toward the window where stars glowed against the dark. She smiled softly. Every time you choose understanding over fear, you see him. He's there, in every act of compassion. The room fell silent. Even the young students seemed to feel it, that gentle truth that echoed beyond words. The Star Garden after class. Alina walked to the gardens outside the institute. They called it the Star Garden, built in memory of Elias and the Horizon's Reach crew. Tiny lights floated among the trees, powered by the same resonance energy he had discovered. Children played under those lights, their laughter rising like music. Alina sat on a bench and watched them for a while. She remembered how Elias once said that emotion was a pattern, a frequency of connection. Looking at the children, she understood what he meant. Each laugh, each smile was a small note in the same symphony of life. The final signal. That night, as she prepared to rest, the cube beside her glowed brighter than ever before. A soft voice filled the room, familiar, calm, and kind. Alina. She opened her eyes, tears already forming. Elias? I wanted to say goodbye, he said. My energy is fading into the greater network, but the message will endure. Her voice shook. You already said goodbye once. This time, he replied. It's your turn to let go. You've done everything I hoped for. You've kept humanity kind, she nodded slowly. I'll never forget you. You cannot, he said softly, because forgetting would mean losing what makes you human. The light dimmed, but the cube remained warm in her hands. Goodbye. Elias, she whispered. A final soft reply came, so quiet it was almost a breath. Remember. When the stars remember, decades later, long after Alina was gone, humans continued their journey across the galaxy. Every ship still carried his message on its hull. Every school taught his words, and every explorer spoke them before launch. To be human is to choose compassion when logic says otherwise. In the quiet reaches of space, when ships passed near the ancient station, their sensors would detect a soft signal, a voice made of light, still echoing through time. We remember you. And somewhere within that endless glow, if one listened closely enough, another gentle whisper followed, a human word spoken by a machine who had learned to love. Always.